Hello and welcome to Weekly News Highlights. Let's begin with the keywords that made headlines this week. President Lee Jae-myung has outlined his vision for the year ahead, pledging to make 2026 a turning point for more inclusive economic growth. In his New Year's address, the president emphasized reducing inequality, supporting regional development, and restoring momentum after months of political turbulence. South Korea's annual exports have surpassed $700 billion for the first time, placing the country among a small group of the world's top exporting nations. President Lee Jae-myung is set to make an official visit to China early this month, marking the first visit by a South Korean leader in nearly 6 years. The trip is expected to focus on restoring bilateral ties and expanding economic cooperation. The Blue House, also known as Cheongwade, has officially resumed its role as South Korea's presidential office for the first time in 3 years and 7 months. President Lee Jae-myung began work there earlier this week, roughly 7 months after taking office. Our senior Blue House correspondent Yoon Jung-min has the details of the president's first day at Cheongwade.
It was an unusual scene on Monday morning to witness a president clocking in for work. Wearing a three-colored tie representing national unity, President Lee Jae-myung made his first commute to the Blue House since taking office, having relocated his office from Yongsan. His supporters were waving flags and calling out his name outside, and his senior aides waited for him to arrive. Upon arrival, he met aides over tea where he was briefed on this year's exports and investment by foreigners, expected to be record highs, as well as the launch of a task force against transnational online scam crimes. He also visited the National Crisis Management Center, located underground, asking for thorough defense readiness 24/7 to protect the lives of the people. And he made a surprise visit to the Chunchugan press room, greeting reporters. On the stroke of midnight, the symbolic presidential flag, bearing a pair of phoenixes, was raised at Cheongwade, also known as the Blue House. With that, it has restored its name and status as the nation's top office. The president will mostly stay at the Yeomingwan building, rather than the main office building, for close communication with his senior aides and staff.
With the return to the Blue House, we will show the Lee Jae-myung-style pragmatism that prioritizes transparency and competency, restores communication with the public, and renews the status as a global pillar of diplomacy and defense.
Lee will commute to and from work for the time being until the renovation of the official residence is completed. In 2022, former President Yoon Suk-yeol relocated the nation's top office to the building used by the Defense Ministry in Yongsan, where he declared martial law last year. President Lee has vowed to end the Yongsan era and focus on state affairs at the traditional presidential compound for the remainder of his term. The office vowed to bolster communication with the public, apparently with criticism in mind that the place is symbolic of a lack of communication. In the long term, the president plans to relocate the office to the administrative city of Sejong. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
A day after South Korea's presidential office returned to the Blue House, President Lee Jae-myung on Tuesday chaired his first cabinet meeting there. The meeting garnered great attention not only for its venue, but also for approving two controversial acts. Our Song Yujin reports from the Blue House.
Presiding over his first cabinet meeting at the Blue House, President Lee Jae-myung described the return from the Yongsan presidential office as a milestone.
청와대 복귀는 헌정 질서 유린으로 얼룩진 용산 시대를 마무리하고 국민 주권과 민주주의가 제자리를 찾았다라는 점을 상징하는 이정표입니다.
His remarks referred to former President Yoon Suk-yeol's declaration of martial law at the Yongsan office last December. Tuesday's cabinet meeting also drew attention after approving two acts passed by the National Assembly last week under the leadership of the ruling Democratic Party. The first establishes dedicated tribunals at the Seoul Central District Court and the Seoul High Court to handle cases related to insurrection, rebellion, and treason. The law takes effect immediately, but ongoing trials will remain with their current judges. This means former President Yoon's insurrection case will continue to be heard by the existing trial panel at the Seoul Central District Court. The cabinet also approved the revised Information and Communications Network Act to curb the spread of fake news.
그냥 누구의 명예를 훼손하는 그런 문제가 아니고 그 순위 조작하고 이런 거는 업무 방해일 뿐만 아니라 정보 조작이라서 민주주의 체제를 위협하는 행위입니다.
Under the revised law, which will take effect 6 months after promulgation, individuals or media outlets that knowingly distribute such information for profit may be required to pay damages of up to 5 times the actual harm caused. The main opposition People Power Party opposed both bills, launching filibusters, arguing that the special tribunals undermine judicial impartiality, while warning that the revised Network Act could restrict freedom of expression. This was the last meeting of 2025, a year President Lee described as laying the groundwork for recovery and normalization after months of political turmoil. With the president pledging that 2026 will be a year of growth, attention now turns to how the administration will translate this vision into action. 송유진, Arirang News.
President Lee Jae-myung posted an unboxing video on social media offering a glimpse of a rare gift he received from U.S. President Donald Trump. Our correspondent Song Yu-jin tells us more.
언박싱 한번 해볼까요?
As President Lee Jae-myung opens the box, he reveals a golden key. President Lee posted this short video on social media on Tuesday, showing the gift he received from U.S. President Donald Trump.
백악관으로 가는 키. 백악관 문이 안 열리면 이걸로 열면 열린다는데 진짜인가 한번 확인해 봐야 되겠습니다.
This comes after Presidential Chief of Staff Kang Hoon-sik unveiled that President Trump had sent the final one of 5 golden keys he personally designed, in return for what he called a meaningful gift from President Lee during their October summit in Gyeongju. At that meeting, Lee presented Trump with a replica of a golden crown from Korea's ancient Silla dynasty.
한국과 미국 간의 새로운 시대를 위하여.
Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
The 4 other keys are known to have been given to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, former Japanese Prime Minister Taro Aso, Tesla CEO Elon Musk, and football star Cristiano Ronaldo. President Lee wrote that he hopes the gift will help unlock an even stronger ROK-US alliance, thanking President Trump for what he described as constant friendship and deep trust. So the symbolic gift exchange comes as President Lee wraps up 2025, a year that saw 2 summits with President Trump, as well as the release of the long-awaited joint fact sheet on trade and security. Eyes are now on how their personal rapport, as well as how the ROK-US alliance will evolve in the new year. 송유진, Arirang News.
President Lee Jae-myung began 2026, his first full year in office, by delivering his first New Year's message as president and visiting the Seoul National Cemetery. Our correspondent Song Yu-jin has the details.
A new year often begins with resolutions. For President Lee Jae-myung, it's making 2026 a year where the whole nation can enjoy the fruits of Korea's economic growth.
올 한 해를 붉은 말처럼 힘차게 달리는 해로 대한민국 대도약의 원년으로 만들겠습니다. 대도약을 통한 성장의 과실은 특정 소수가 독식하는 것이 아니라 모두가 함께 나눌 수 있도록 하겠습니다.
President Lee began his New Year's address by thanking the public for helping restore stability after former President Yoon Suk-yeol's martial law declaration and subsequent impeachment. He says the country must now move faster, but with a shift in mindset.
불평등과 격차가 성장을 가로막고 경쟁과 갈등이 격화되는 이 악순환 속에서 자원의 집중과 기회의 편중은 이제 성장의 디딤돌이 아니라 걸림돌이 되고 있습니다.
The president laid out 5 policy directions. First, more substantial and decisive support for regions away from the capital.
인재와 기술 양성을 위한 교육 투자, 삶의 질을 높여줄 광역 교통과 문화시설 투자, 여기에 관광 정책까지 하나로 잇는 집중 투자를 통해 지방주도 성장의 기반을 촘촘하게 실현해내겠습니다.
Second, the president called for an environment where young entrepreneurs can take risks and innovate, allowing startups and SMEs to thrive alongside big companies. On social policy, Yi stressed the need for safer workplaces through tougher penalties, noting that South Korea has the highest industrial accident death rate in the OECD. Turning to culture, which he described as a pillar of national competitiveness, President Yi pledged stronger support not only for pop culture, but for fine arts. On diplomacy and security, the administration will work toward peaceful coexistence on the Korean Peninsula.
페이스메이커로서 북미 대화를 적극 지원하고 남북 관계 복원을 거듭 모색할 것입니다.
The president's resolve was evident at his first official engagement of the year, a traditional visit to the Seoul National Cemetery. In the guest book, he wrote, "We will embark on the first year of a great national leap forward toward a society where we can all live well together." 송유진, 아리랑 뉴스.
Poshingak Pavilion is home to Korea's iconic New Year's bell ringing ceremony in central Seoul. Every year, the ringing of the bell marks a symbolic farewell to the old year and a hopeful welcome to the new one, representing fresh beginnings for people across the country. And one of our reporters, Park Junan, was there and joins us now to tell us more about the event. Happy New Year, Junan.
Happy New Year, Sujin.
So, Junan, as usual, New Year's Eve was freezing cold, but there was plenty of excitement there in the air with the thousands of people in attendance. So, can you tell us more about what the atmosphere was like?
Right, Sujin, as you just mentioned, I was with thousands of others at Poshingak Pavilion for New Year celebration there. The bell was rung at midnight on January 1st to welcome in 2026, the year of the red horse. Although the temperature was freezing cold, I was happy to be there. Unlike last year, when the country was observing a national mourning period following a deadly airplane crash that claimed more than 800 lives, this year's atmosphere felt vibrant and full of energy. Let's take a listen to what some of those present had to say.
I've been through a lot, so I hope next year I can get back on my feet and really make a leap forward. I would like to run strongly ahead like a horse.
I wish I can become taller, and I hope my family stays healthy.
Around 100,000 visitors descended on Seoul's Jongno district for the midnight bell ringing ceremony. Across the city, major venues including Dongdaemun Design Plaza, Lotte World Tower, and Haneul Park attracted a combined total of up to 220,000 people.
Wow, so it does sound like a lot of people were out and about this New Year's Eve. Going back to the bell ringing ceremony, can you tell us more about the event as a whole?
Sure, Sujin. At Poshingak, the ceremony began at 11 p.m. with a series of performances to create a festive atmosphere, followed by the introduction of the bell ringers, honor guests representing various sectors of society. Seoul Mayor Oh Se-hoon also delivered a year-end address reflecting on 2025. At the main event at midnight, the pavilion was covered by 3 themed LED displays. The bell was struck 33 times in 3 sets of 11 strikes. After the bell ringing ceremony, local band Crying Nut performed 3 songs live.
But of course, public safety is very important. So what steps were put in place to ensure that?
Right, Sujin. Safety was the most important factor. To ensure safety, the police deployed over 3,000 officers citywide with about 1,760 focused on high-traffic areas, including Jongno. Also, the event zone was divided into 12 control sections to manage the crowd. Traffic restrictions were also in effect with 400 traffic officers and 10 police motorcycles in patrol. And celebrations in Seoul ended without any major incidents.
All right, thank you so much for sharing that with us today, Junan.
Of course, Sujin, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. South Korea's stock market posted a standout performance in 2025 with the Kospi surging to an all-time high on the back of strong export growth and a rally in semiconductor stocks. Our economic correspondent Park Junan tells us more.
South Korea's benchmark Kospi made a strong comeback in 2025, inarguably closing at a record high as the world's top-performing index. In 2025 alone, the Kospi saw a remarkable 75.63% increase, from below 2,400 to 4,214. The market's gain was significant as it far outpaced the 17.4% rise of the S&P 500, which combines the United States' 500 most valuable companies into one index. The Kospi's rally was predominantly led by semiconductor giants and sectors benefiting from a surge in exports. Mega-cap stocks that outperformed the market included Tusan Enerbility, SK Hynix, Hanwha Aerospace, and Samsung Electronics. The rally was further amplified by massive cash inflows from foreign and institutional investors betting on Korean stocks. Overseas investors poured in record amounts, drawn by the AI-driven rally. Government policies also played a key role in the index surge. These included the Corporate Value Up Program, a revision to the Commercial Act aimed at enhancing shareholder returns and corporate governance. Starting in 2026, the securities transaction tax on the main Kospi market will total 0.2%, following the introduction of a 0.05% levy in addition to the existing 0.15% special tax for rural development. Rates for the Kosdaq, which tracks smaller tech-heavy firms, and KOTC, the Korea Financial Investment Association's over-the-counter market, will rise from the current 0.15% to 0.2%. Heading into 2026, the Kospi's momentum will need to be sustained through continued government efforts to support the local market, alongside corporate earnings that meet investor expectations. The Korean stock market will be closed on Wednesday and Thursday for the New Year holiday. Trading will resume on Friday with a delayed opening at 10 a.m. due to the annual market opening ceremony. Park Junan, Arirang News.
On the economic front, 2025 has become a milestone year for South Korean exports. The country has surpassed the $700 billion mark, becoming just the sixth country in the world to reach that level. Cha Young-kyung has the details.
The Ministry of Trade, Industry and Resources and the Korea Customs Service announced on Monday that South Korea's annual exports have surpassed $700 billion in value for the first time. This makes it the sixth country to do so, behind the United States, Germany, China, Japan, and the Netherlands, showing faster export growth compared to other major economies. In 1948, exports amounted to $19 million, meaning the export volume has grown more than 36,000 times. The country achieved $700 billion in exports 30 years after exceeding $100 billion in 1995, and 7 years after surpassing $600 billion in 2018. The average annual export growth rate reached 14.67%. A ministry official said, despite a challenging trade environment marked by U.S. tariff measures and trade protectionism, Korea turned the crisis into an opportunity, underscoring the resilience of our people and businesses. While outbound shipments declined in the first half of the year, they rebounded sharply from June, setting new monthly records for 6 consecutive months. The ministry attributed the strong performance to robust semiconductor exports, alongside automobiles, ships, and bio-related goods. Food and cosmetics also contributed to the overall growth, along with the popularity of the Korean wave. The government said it will work to sustain momentum next year by strengthening the fundamental competitiveness of industries through manufacturing innovation, diversifying export markets and items, and expanding incentives to attract foreign investment to regional areas. Cha Young-kyung, Arirang News.
President Lee Jae-myung's first overseas engagement for the new year is a state visit to China for talks with his counterpart Xi Jinping. Our correspondent Kim Bo-kyung tells us more.
President Lee Jae-myung will make an official visit to China, the first for a South Korean leader in about 6 years since former President Moon Jae-in's visit in December 2019. This marks the second Lee-Xi summit in just 2 months after they met during APEC in Gyeongju. According to the presidential office, President Lee will pay a state visit to China from January 4th to 7th, hold a summit in Beijing with his counterpart, and have a state dinner. Moving on to Shanghai, he plans to mark the historical significance of 2026, which will be the 150th anniversary of the birth of independence leader Kim Il-sung and the 100th anniversary of the Shanghai Provisional Government building. One expert says Yi's China visit will carry great significance in the restoration of bilateral ties.
The summit hints at the restoration of bilateral ties, which had been stalled for some time, and that the strategic cooperative relationship between South Korea and China is very important in the context of global geopolitics.
There will be many agenda items to cover, mainly the follow-up measures to implement the 7 MOUs that were signed during the previous summit for long-term economic cooperation. The same expert, too, says instead of other sensitive issues between the two countries, two leaders are likely to focus on economic cooperation.
The leaders are likely to discuss further accelerating the second phase of the Korea-China FTA negotiations and move beyond the previously stalled framework of cooperation and expand collaboration not in traditional industries of the past, but in more future-oriented industries.
Still, eyes are on whether discussions on the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula will take place, and whether China will explicitly include such language in its official statements. The meeting itself has reignited hope of China lifting its restrictions on Korean cultural content as well. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Along Korea's east coast, Nakseongsa Temple has long been a place of quiet retreat and reflection. But this winter, the centuries-old temple is reimagining the traditional temple stay, blending ways to reflect in the new year with an unexpected twist on the ice. An Sung-jin has the story.
Along Korea's east coast, overlooking the East Sea, Nakseongsa Temple has long drawn visitors seeking a pause from everyday life, a place for retreat and reflection.
Whenever I feel down, I often return to temple stays because they offer some healing and a chance to look at the natural landscape.
Since it's the end of the year, I wanted to wrap up the year well, stepping away from everyday life, so I came here with a friend.
Nakseongsa's temple stay program includes a guided tour of the temple grounds and the iconic 해수관음상, a statue gazing out toward the sea. Visitors can also take part in traditional meditation programs such as tea meditation, which emphasizes mindfulness through ritual, and singing bowl meditation, known for its calming vibrations. But this winter, Nakseongsa Temple is offering something entirely new.
Now, the Nakseongsa Temple stay has gone beyond a conventional stay, creating a unique curling temple stay that combines the excitement of winter sports with a traditional monastic experience.
Curling, often described as chess on ice, shares similarities with meditation in that they both bring the mind into focus while caring for the body.
It's thrilling and fun, especially sliding across the ice, even though it's a bit slippery. Through this temple stay, I got to try curling, visit the temple, and meet so many new people.
The initiative aims to broaden the appeal of temple stays while offering a fresh way to explore balance, focus, and teamwork beyond the meditation hall.
As temple stays become increasingly connected with the wellness industry, we're also expanding our programs in partnership with the local community. Our goal is to design programs that allow participants to truly experience the temple culture and take time to rest.
Nakseongsa Temple is redefining what a temple stay can be. The temple's new program invites visitors to discover balance in an unexpected place, where Buddhist philosophy meets winter sports. An Sung-jin, Arirang News, Sokcho.
The long wait is nearly over for K-pop fans worldwide as BTS is set to make a full group comeback in March. The group's agency Big Hit Music announced on Thursday that BTS will release a new album on March 20th. The release will mark BTS's first full group album release in 3 years and 9 months following the completion of mandatory military service by all 7 members. The album release date was also revealed through a handwritten letter sent by the group to members of its fandom. Following the album's release, BTS is set to embark on a large-scale world tour. And that brings us to the end of Weekly News Highlights. Thank you for watching and enjoy the rest of your weekend.